Welcome back to Close Up. A lot to discuss this week with just about 2 weeks to go until the primary. And here to break it all down, John DeStaso, WMUR political reporter. Thanks for being here. So the Joe Biden interview we just had, interesting that we heard him say he doesn't have to win here. He says he can win, he could win, but he's not going to set expectations that high.
That's right. Good politician. Probably being honest, set expectations low, and then you meet expectations if things don't go your way. And obviously, if you do better than the expectations you're setting, I think the expectations for Joe Biden are quite high, actually. Now, does he have to win here? Probably not, given the fact that there are two neighbors in the race. But at the same time, if he beats even one of them and finishes second or third, that can be spun into and accurately so, into a major boost for him, a major thrust of momentum going forward into the states that he feels he really can win.
Yeah, one of the most unique aspects of this primary regarding Joe Biden, you go to his events, it's not a huge crowd, and yet you see the polls, he's still strong there, but you go to the events and it's a pretty average crowd. So it'll be interesting to see what translates and what comes through there in the end. One politician we know who always draws a big crowd, President Donald Trump, and as you've reported first, he's going to be here on primary eve. A big night becomes epic.
Absolutely. What a day and night that's going to be, and a weekend for that matter. I mean, you're going to have the debate, which you are in. We're going to have a major Democratic event. And then on that Monday, President Trump is going to be at the SNHU Arena with thousands of his supporters and many more either on his side or protesting him on Elm Street. It's going to be unlike anything I think that I've ever seen on primary eve, because he is now the sitting president. Primary eve 4 years ago, he was still a candidate. Now he's the president, and a lot of water has gone under the bridge in the last 4 years, so he'll have a lot to talk about. Will he attack any specific Democrat? Will he just go after the field? Is he looking to get independents to pick up Republican ballots for him? Is he looking toward the general election? Mainly, I think he's just here to kind of put it into the face, if you will, of the Democrats.
Right, and you got to figure that the message is sent no matter what, that no matter how big you think your election night party is going to be as the winner of the New Hampshire primary,
correct,
he's going to have something bigger going on the night before. So there's an implicit message there for sure. Let's talk about those undecided voters. We see in the polling the number is high, as it always is, but this is going to be a down-to-the-wire race, and we've heard from a lot of people who say they're going to make up their mind as they head into the booth.
Yeah, I think that's certainly true. It's always been true in New Hampshire that we have late deciders, especially in primaries. I was looking up doing a little research on this. Even in years when one candidate or another seemed to have a big lead, there were many people who hadn't made up their minds until the very end. You could have half the voters not really decided because they like them, just about all of them. I think the voters, the Democratic voters, really, there's very few people who are negative or get negative, unfavorable ratings. And so which one is going to be the one to take on the president? Maybe if the president attacks a certain candidate on primary eve, that would actually help that candidate.
Yeah, this hasn't been a race of sharp contrasts, and certainly, so maybe that's contributing. But last question here, Iowa is going to send a signal, and that's going to set a lot in motion here, isn't it?
I think so. I think that this time it will, because of the uncertainty and the fluidity of the race. Don't forget, though, there's 8 days in between, and a lot of things can happen in those 8 days.
We'll be here for it. All right, John, thanks so much for your insight.
Thank you, Adam.
We'll see you next week.